I don't remember when I started noticing her. Maybe it was the way she always paused before speaking, like she was choosing which version of herself to show. Or maybe it was just the sound of her voice, low, warm, careful. Whatever it was, once I noticed, I couldn't stop. That night, she was sitting on the balcony, my friend's sister, a glass of white wine in one hand, her phone face down beside her. The light from inside the house stretched across her bare arms, catching the faint shimmer of her skin. She didn't look up when I slid the door open. She just said, "You're quiet tonight," without turning her head. I told her I was fine. She nodded, still looking out over the street. "You always say that." The chair next to hers creaked when I sat down. There was music from somewhere far off, a neighbor's party maybe, muffled, steady. The air smelled like rain, though it hadn't fallen yet. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, and I caught myself staring at the curve of her neck, the slow rise and fall of her chest. She must have felt it. Her eyes shifted toward me, not fully, just enough. "You've been looking at me too long," she said. The words weren't sharp. They landed softly, almost like a question. I opened my mouth, then closed it. She smiled, small and tired, the kind of smile that says she already knows what you're not saying. I began. "Sure you weren't." She leaned back in her chair, her tone teasing, but her eyes stayed on mine. "You look at people like you're trying to figure them out. It's disarming." The air between us thinned. I wanted to look away, but I didn't. She didn't either. For a moment, neither of us said anything. The sound of ice shifting in her glass filled the space where words could have gone. "Your brother's going to kill me if he finds us out here again," I said finally, trying to laugh. Her mouth twitched, not quite a smile. "He won't. He doesn't notice much." There was something in the way she said it. Not bitterness, just truth. Her fingers tapped against the glass, slow, rhythmic. I watched the condensation gather at her fingertips and slide down, leaving faint wet trails on her skin. "Do you always do that?" I asked. She looked at me, puzzled. "What?" "Pretend you don't mind being alone." That broke the silence. She turned her face away, took a sip of wine, then set the glass down harder than she meant to. "You're too young to talk like that," she said. "And you're too smart to believe it matters." Her breath caught, a barely there sound, before she laughed once, low and short. "You shouldn't say things like that." I didn't mean to. Exactly. The light flickered behind us. Inside, the others were still talking, laughing, a different world we weren't part of. Out here, it felt like time had slipped. The only thing moving was the slow wind pushing her hair across her shoulder and my hand twitching once, close enough to touch her, but not yet. She noticed. She always noticed. Her gaze dropped to my hand, then back to my face. The tension in her expression softened, but her voice didn't. "Don't," she whispered. "I wasn't going to," I said. She smiled faintly. "That's what scares me." Before I could answer, the balcony door slid open, quick, loud. "Hey, you two out here?" Her brother's voice cut through the night. She straightened. I pulled back my hand. The spell broke. But even as she turned away, her knee brushed mine under the table. A small, quiet accident that didn't feel accidental at all. And that was the moment I knew I wouldn't stop noticing her. After that night, I told myself it was nothing, just tension, wine, and too much imagination. But every time I saw her after, something in me slipped. She came by my brother's apartment often. She said it was just to check on him. But she always found a reason to stay longer. Sometimes she'd bring food, or ask if I could help carry something to her car. Always small things. Always excuses. She was the kind of woman who filled silence without speaking. When she entered a room, the air shifted, quieter, heavier, as if every sound had to move around her. The next time we were alone, it was in the kitchen. She was rinsing coffee mugs, sleeves rolled to her elbows. I leaned against the counter, pretending to scroll through my phone. The scent of her shampoo, clean, something faintly citrus, mixed with the steam from the sink. "You don't talk much when your brother's around," she said. "You don't either," I replied. She glanced at me, half a smile. "That's because he talks enough for both of us." We both laughed, but it fell off quickly. The laughter didn't reach our eyes. She handed me a cup to dry, her fingers brushing mine. Light, but deliberate. I didn't move. Neither did she. For a second, the sound of water running filled the gap. Then she pulled her hand back, drying it slowly on a towel. "I used to hate this kitchen," she said after a pause. "Too small. Too many bad dinners." I looked up. You used to live here? With my ex years ago. She gave a soft shrug. Before he stopped coming home. Something in the way she said it, not angry, not even sad, made my chest tighten. Just tired honesty. I wanted to ask what happened, but she didn't look like she wanted to be asked. Her eyes stayed fixed on the cup in her hand, circling the rim with her thumb. She broke the silence first. What about you? Girlfriend? I shook my head. Not really. Not really. I was seeing someone, but I hesitated. She said I make people feel like I'm always halfway somewhere else. Her eyes lifted to mine, slow, searching. Maybe you are. Maybe she was right. Because lately, somewhere else looked a lot like wherever she was. When she turned to put the mug away, her hip brushed against my leg. Soft, accidental, but not completely. My breath caught. She froze too. The sound of the faucet stopped. You shouldn't stand so close, she murmured. Then don't keep moving closer, I said before I could stop myself. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not angry, just studying me. Then she stepped back, exhaling through her nose, the faintest smile flickering on her lips. You really don't know what you're doing, do you? Probably not. She shook her head, half amused, half something else. Good. Keep it that way. But her voice trembled just enough to betray her. The towel in her hand slipped. When I bent to pick it up, our faces almost met, close enough that I felt the warmth of her breath on my cheek. Neither of us moved for a long second. Then she straightened, her tone low and calm. Thanks, she said. I nodded. But when she walked away, she didn't look back. And still, somehow, it felt like she'd left part of herself in the room. In the air, in the scent of citrus and coffee, in the place where our hands almost touched. It happened a week later, late evening again, rain against the windows, a half-finished movie on the TV no one was watching. My brother had gone out to get more drinks. She stayed, saying she'd wait until he came back. I stayed too, because I couldn't think of a reason not to. We sat at opposite ends of the couch at first, a respectful distance. She had a blanket draped over her legs, bare feet tucked under her. Every few minutes, she'd glance at her phone, then set it face down again. You can change the movie if you want, she said without looking up. I don't even know what we're watching. Me neither. The room was dim except for the light from the TV. The rain outside filled the pauses between words. When she shifted to grab the remote, the blanket slipped from her knees. I caught it before it hit the floor, our fingers brushing for just a second. Soft, quick. She froze, eyes flicking to mine. Thanks, she whispered. I nodded, my voice caught somewhere I couldn't reach. She leaned back slowly, watching me like she was trying to decide whether to say something or not. Her hair was loose tonight, a little messy, like she'd stopped caring. Somehow that made it worse, or better. I couldn't tell. You keep looking at me like that, she said quietly. Like what? Like you don't know if you're allowed to. She said it so gently, it almost didn't sound like an accusation. I'm not, I admitted. Her lips curved slightly. Then stop. But she didn't move away. The air felt thick. I could hear my own pulse. She looked down at her hands, then reached for the wine glass on the table. Her fingers trembled slightly as she lifted it. You know this is ridiculous, she said, half under her breath. I know. She stopped, searching for the right word. You're too young. People would talk. Let them. She gave a short, quiet laugh, not out of amusement, but disbelief. You don't understand how that sounds. I do. She turned to look at me fully now. No, you don't. You get to walk away from this. I don't. Something in her voice cracked on the last word. It wasn't anger, it was fear. Before I could say anything, her phone buzzed on the table. The name flashing on the screen made her flinch, her ex. She hesitated, then flipped it over again, silencing it. I tried to look away, but she caught me watching. It's just old noise, she said quietly. Nothing that matters anymore. I didn't believe her, but I didn't press it. She exhaled, long and slow, then leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Her shoulder brushed mine. Neither of us moved. I don't want to do something we can't take back, she whispered. Then why are you still here? The question hung between us, raw, reckless. Her head turned toward me. The space between us shrank until I could feel the warmth of her breath. For a moment, everything stilled. The rain, the movie, even thought itself. Then the front door clicked. She jerked back, almost knocking over her glass. My brother's voice echoed from the hallway, casual, close. I leaned away, trying to look normal. She smoothed her hair, her pulse visible at her throat. When he walked in, she smiled too brightly. I said nothing, but as he talked, her knee brushed mine under the blanket again. A tiny, trembling confession neither of us would name. And that touch, that single, fleeting press of skin, said everything we weren't ready to say out loud. It was late again. It always was. The kind of hour where everyone else is asleep, and the quiet becomes too honest to hide behind. She had dropped by to return something of my brother's, a book, I think. But he wasn't home, and I was. She hesitated at the door, half-turned like she might leave. Then she stepped inside anyway. "I'll just leave it here," she said softly. "Or you could stay a minute." Her eyes lifted, slow, uncertain. "That's not a good idea." "Probably not," I said. "But we've had worse ones." That made her smile, just a little. She moved past me into the living room, her perfume faint, clean, familiar. The rain had started again outside, tracing lines down the window. She stood there, arms crossed loosely, like she was holding herself together. "You don't know what you're doing," she said. "I do." "No, you don't." Her voice wavered. "You think this is something you can handle, but it's not that simple." I stepped closer, slow enough to give her space to stop me. She didn't. Her breath hitched. "You shouldn't look at me like that." "Then stop giving me reasons to." She exhaled, eyes closing for a moment. "You're too young to understand what happens after." "Maybe," I said quietly. "But I understand what's happening right now." She looked up, and that was when it cracked. All the distance, all the pretending. Her eyes were glassy, her control fraying at the edges. "You think this means nothing to me?" "I think you're trying too hard to make it mean nothing." That silence that followed was sharp. You could feel it in the air, the kind that hurts to breathe through. She took a step toward me, then another. When she stopped, we were close enough that I could see the faint tremor in her lower lip, the rise and fall of her chest. I could smell the rain on her coat, the warmth of her skin underneath. Her hand lifted, slow, unsure, and brushed my hair back from my forehead. Her fingers lingered a second too long, then dropped. "Don't make me say something I can't take back," she whispered. "Then don't." But I said it too softly, too close. My voice brushed against her cheek. She looked at me then, really looked, and I saw it. The fear, the want, the exhaustion of trying not to feel. Her hand found my shoulder, light at first, then firmer. I could feel her trembling. "This is wrong," she said, but it came out like a confession, not a warning. I nodded once. "Then tell me to stop." She didn't. The rain hit harder, wind pushing against the windows. She leaned in just slightly, her forehead almost touching mine. "I can't," she said, barely audible. Her breath brushed my lips. My hand moved to her waist, hesitant, waiting. And then, a knock at the door. Loud, sudden. We froze. Her eyes widened, her fingers still gripping my shoulder. Neither of us breathed. Another knock. My brother's voice. "Hey, you in there?" She stepped back fast, one hand pressed to her mouth. When I turned, she was already reaching for her coat. Before she left, she paused by the door, looked at me once, eyes bright, unsteady, and said, "You have no idea what you just almost did." And then she was gone, leaving the air humming, the rain still pounding, and my heart beating hard enough to fill the silence she left behind. I didn't see her for days after that night. No texts, no messages, nothing. Just silence, the kind that feels heavy, deliberate. I tried not to think about it, but every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her. It never was. Then, out of nowhere, she showed up again. It was early evening. My brother and I had just finished dinner when he said, "By the way, my sister's coming by." Something about needing to talk. I tried to act casual, but my fork stopped halfway to my mouth. She didn't say what about. He shrugged. "You know her." "Probably nothing." But it wasn't nothing. I knew it the moment she walked in. She was different, guarded, her smile stretched too thin. She greeted my brother, but her eyes flicked to me for the briefest second. It was enough to knock the air out of me. We made it through the small talk, pretending. Then my brother's phone rang. He stepped out to take the call, leaving us alone in the half-lit room. The moment the door closed, her body seemed to lose its tension. "You told him, didn't you?" she said quietly. "What? About that night? About us?" I blinked. "No, I didn't say anything." Her jaw tightened. "Then how does he know?" "What are you talking about?" "He asked me yesterday if I was still spending time with his friend." He said it like a warning. My stomach dropped. "He doesn't know what that means." He couldn't. She stepped closer, her voice low, trembling. You think you're being careful, but you're not. People notice things. The way you look at me. I can't help that. Yes, you can. We stood there, inches apart, her breathing quick and uneven. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them against her sides to hide it. Why are you so afraid? I asked. Because I've already ruined one life with bad timing, she said. I'm not doing it again. That stopped me cold. Who? She hesitated, then looked away. When I was younger, I fell for someone I shouldn't have. He left his family for me, and I couldn't love him enough to make it worth what he lost. Her voice cracked. I don't want to be that woman again. The confession hung between us like smoke. Real, painful, impossible to ignore. I stepped closer anyway. You're not that woman. Her head lifted, eyes searching mine. Then what am I? The one I can't stop thinking about. Her breath caught. Her hand twitched, like she wanted to touch me but didn't trust herself to. You shouldn't say that. Then stop giving me reasons to. For a long second, she didn't move. Then she brushed past me, her shoulder grazing my arm. A deliberate, trembling pass. She stopped just behind me, close enough that I could feel the warmth of her breath near my neck. You're going to make me do something stupid, she whispered. Maybe I already have. She exhaled, shaky, resigned. Then meet me tomorrow, she said, where we won't be found. Before I could answer, the front door opened and my brother stepped back in. She turned away instantly, her face composed again. But as she left, her hand brushed mine, a whisper of contact, electric and certain. Whatever line we'd been pretending not to cross, tomorrow, it would vanish. She chose a cafe outside of town, quiet, unremarkable, the kind of place where no one looked twice at strangers. I got there early, rain still clinging to my jacket. My reflection in the window looked uncertain. When she arrived, she didn't smile. Just a soft nod, her eyes tired, rimmed with something that wasn't quite sleep. Thanks for coming, she said. I didn't think you'd show. Neither did I. We sat in the far corner, away from the few customers scattered across the room. Steam from her cup fogged the window beside us. For a while, neither of us spoke. You shouldn't have agreed to this, she said finally, fingers tracing the rim of her mug. It just makes it harder. Then why did you ask me to? Her lips pressed into a thin line. Because I needed to see if I was imagining it. And her eyes lifted, direct, unguarded. I wasn't. The air between us tightened. I reached across the table, my fingers brushing hers. She didn't pull away. Her hand was cold, trembling slightly, like she'd been holding her breath for days. This can't keep happening, she whispered. It doesn't have to stop. Yes, it does. I leaned closer. Then why are you shaking? Her laugh was soft, breaking at the edges. Because I'm about to make a mistake. She looked down, then pushed her chair back abruptly. Let's walk, she said. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet pavement and coffee grounds. We walked in silence until we reached a small alley beside the cafe. Narrow, half-lit, the world distant and blurred by drizzle. She stopped there, turned. Her coat hung loose around her shoulders. You don't understand, she said, voice low, breath visible in the chill air. When I look at you, I forget how old I am. I forget who I'm supposed to be. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Her eyes flashed. It is when it ends. And it will. I stepped closer, slow, careful. Then let it end. But not before it starts. She froze as I said it, her lips parting slightly, her breath quick. Don't, she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. My hand lifted, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Her eyes fluttered shut at the touch, and when she opened them again, everything she'd been hiding was right there. Fear, hunger, ache. We can't take it back, she said. I don't want to. The space between us vanished. She leaned in, almost, not quite. Our foreheads touched, the smallest pressure, her breath trembling against my mouth. And then she stopped. I can't, she said, barely audible. I swallowed hard, nodded once, and stepped back. The cold filled the space where she'd been. She reached out then, her fingers grazing my sleeve, just enough to keep me from walking away. You make me feel alive, she said quietly. That's what makes this so dangerous. Her eyes met mine, steady now. Don't wait for me. I won't, I lied. She smiled faintly, sad, certain. Then she turned, the rain starting again, soft against the pavement. I watched her go until she disappeared into the gray. And for the first time, I understood, It was never about what we could have. It was about the fact that we almost did. Weeks passed. I told myself it was over, that she'd made her choice, that I should make mine. But some nights, when everything went still, I'd catch a scent that reminded me of her, citrus and rain, and it would all come back, clear as the first time. Then one afternoon, she showed up again. No warning. Just a knock at the door, and there she was. Same calm face, same tired eyes that never really stopped looking like they were holding back too much. "I shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." We stood in the doorway, not moving. The light from outside made her hair look softer, a little golden. Her hand clutched her bag like she'd run out of reasons to hold on to anything else. "Do you want to come in?" I asked. She hesitated, then nodded. The house was quiet, my brother out, the air faintly cold. She looked around like she was remembering something she'd rather forget. I wanted to say something, but words felt small compared to the silence pressing around us. "I've been thinking," she said finally, "about everything." I waited. "I spent half my life worrying about how things would look," she went on, voice low. "Who would talk? Who would judge? I kept people at a distance so I wouldn't get hurt. But it's worse being alone and pretending it doesn't matter." She turned then, really turned, her eyes steady on mine. "I don't want to pretend anymore." I took a step closer, then another, until we were just a breath apart. "So what are we doing?" I asked quietly. She smiled faintly. "Something probably stupid." "Good," I said. "I'm getting used to that." The tension that had always lived between us softened into something warmer, quieter. I reached for her hand, slow, careful, and she let me take it. Her fingers slid between mine, cold at first, then settling, fitting. For a long time, we just stood there. No rush, no pretending not to want this. "You're shaking," I murmured. "I know." I brushed my thumb across the back of her hand. "Still want to run?" She shook her head. "Not this time." When I leaned forward, she didn't move away. Our foreheads met, the same almost as before, but this time it stayed. Her breath hitched once, then steadied. "This isn't easy," she whispered. "I don't need easy." Her hand came up, fingers resting lightly against my neck. Her eyes softened, not in surrender, but in recognition. "You make me feel seen," she said. "And that's what scared me the most." I smiled. "Then maybe we scare each other." Her laugh was quiet, real this time. And then she leaned in, closing the space that had lived between us for too long. The kiss wasn't perfect. It wasn't even clean. But it was honest, the kind that happens once you stop fighting yourself. When it ended, she stayed close, her head resting against my chest. The world outside moved on. Cars passing, rain easing, life resuming. But in that moment, it felt like we'd both stopped running. Whatever happened next, it would be real. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?